Well, today, as said, I'm going to be talking about cloth of the world, which is translated from the Latin term for a map, the mappa mundi, which meant cloth of the world. Now, I'm guessing that most of the people who are in the audience today, or even those not in the audience, when they think of maps on cloth, they envision something like a T-shirt. I've seen a few of them walking around here this week. Or a souvenir tablecloth, or a scarf, things like that sort. And I'm guessing that from the number that I've seen here already, that most of us have a map T-shirt, and that many of the men in the conference have a map tie. Usually these have antique maps on them. And so we tend to think of maps on cloth as curiosities or cartographics, or what the late Barbara Pechenik called them, map crap. We don't think of maps on cloth as real maps, okay, with a mapping purpose. And in fact, if one Googles cloth map, you get references to maps for gaming, for map tapestries to hang on your wall, for decoration, clothing. I spotted a backpack with a map on it the other day online. I'm tempted by that one. Even shower curtains with maps on them. But throughout history, maps have been made on silk, rayon, cotton, wool, and linen. The lines and symbols have been painted, printed, woven, drawn on, or stitched in thread. The maps have been used in warfare, education, protest, wayfinding, souvenirs, and decorations. And so the reasons for making maps on cloth vary with the type of map and the person or persons making the map. Okay. One of the better known cloth maps in the past are the Sheldon tapestry maps. These are giant maps woven in tapestry. They're about 20 feet by 13 feet, and there are 4 still left. They each show an English county: Gloucestershire, Worcestershire, Oxfordshire, and Warwickshire. They were made in the late 16th century. Okay. Schoolgirls in England and the United States embroidered maps of the world, of England, of the United States, and of individual U.S. states and English counties. They did this on linen or silk fabric with silk thread. The purpose was to learn geography and needlework at the same time, and these were done in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Women in Chile and in Cambodia made needlework maps of protest. Well, needleworks of protest. Some might question whether they are actually maps. But many of them had map elements. This is a Hmong story cloth, and on some of these, as this one does, they show the Mekong River with people escaping from bombs by riding inner tubes down the river. They show airplanes, parachuting soldiers, and also buses taking refugees to safety. Other maps are simply decorative, drawing on the lure of the map image. Now, because of time today, I'm introducing these just as an intro, but I can't examine all of the types of map on cloth. So I'm going to focus on what we might consider the real maps, the ones that were used primarily to show aspects of place or wayfinding and the reasons for their being. Parts of the story are going to be well known to members of this audience. First of all, maps of war, and one of the earlier ones, the Han Dynasty maps. The earliest maps on cloth that we're aware of are the 3 silk maps from the Han Dynasty. They were found in a tomb that was excavated in 1973, and they date roughly from 168 BCE. And as we can see from this slide, the maps have suffered a bit of deterioration over the last 2,000 plus years. You could see where it was folded when it was packed away. There are 3 of them that were found. One is topographic, one is military, one is of a garrison, which is, of course, military as well. But the military map is approximately 21 by 38 inches. It shows streams, it shows mountains, shows roads and settlements. The maps were hand-drawn. Printing was not yet invented. Colors were used, they don't show well on this slide, but colors were used to show different features. But they are also used to indicate importance, which is a pretty modern concept. Military features such as roads and some settlements are shown in red. Water was shown in light blue-green, and lettering was black. And it's believed that the map was designed primarily for defense because no enemy activities are shown. Mei-Ling Xu, who wrote the definitive paper on these, in her discussion of the maps, noted that these moved back the earliest date of the use of color on maps by 1,252 years. Okay. Now, why were they on silk? Okay. Well, in China at the time of these maps, the primary writing materials were wood, bamboo, and silk. Wood and bamboo were more abundant and cheaper than silk, and thus they were used more commonly for writing. And there are early Chinese maps on wood. Silk, however, was more flexible in size, more portable, and was used even after the invention of paper in the 2nd century Common Era. Another type of war map was used in the American Civil War. The map that I'm showing here is one of northwestern Georgia and would have been used on Sherman's march to the sea. It was one of 3. They were printed on muslin, which is a type of cotton fabric, and they were printed in the field by William E. Merrill. Merrill was a military engineer who was serving with the Army of the Potomac, and in the field he had a printing press, 2 lithographic stones, if you're familiar with the lithographic stones, and a corps of draftsmen to do the work. The map was designed specifically for Union cavalry officers. There was also an edition on paper, but the cloth was primarily for the convenience of the cavalry, as, and I quote, "Such maps could be washed clean whenever soiled and would not be injured by hard service." Okay, try something. Yeah. I'm going to apologize early. After this was sent off, I discovered that one of the slides is out of order, and so I'll work around it. Okay. Okay, probably the best known of the cloth maps were the escape maps of World War II. These have been the most studied. Barbara Bond, who worked as a cartographic researcher in England at the Defense Geographic Center and many other agencies, has written the definitive work on the British escape maps. MI9 was an agency specifically for aiding POWs to escape from enemy camps. They decided to begin a mapping program because escapees needed maps to find their way out of the enemy territory. Now let's see what we got here. Okay. Now we'll leave that. They determined that the maps should be on silk. And the reason for that? Well, silk is flexible, it's lasting, it's noiseless if you fold it and unfold it, It's waterproof and tear-resistant, and very important, it can be compressed into small spaces. Now, ultimately, not all of the maps were actually on silk. Many were on rayon or balloon cloth, which was a type of cotton. Okay, here we go. Back up a bit. A big problem was how to get the maps to prisoners to aid in their escapes. You know, they're at a POW camp. How do you get the maps to them? Well, one method was to smuggle them into the camps in Red Cross packages, which were allowed. And because the maps were so flexible, they could be inserted into board games, a deck of playing cards, chess set, cigarette packages. And one of the best known efforts was to insert them into Monopoly board games. This one, unfortunately, I could not find one that actually showed the maps in it. But in addition to the maps on the Monopoly games, they substituted local currency for Monopoly money. So the escaped prisoner had two vital tools for escape. He had a map and he had money. So now, both the British and Americans produced such maps. The Americans were produced by the Army Map Service. And in addition to the POW escape maps, they made cloth maps for downed pilots who might be landing in the sea, or for sailors who were wrecked and were in a life raft. And the life rafts maps were printed on oilcloth. It's a fabric, but it's treated. And they were stored in the rafts in case they were needed. Ironically, many of the maps that survived the war were not used as maps. They became clothing for wives and girlfriends. In some cases, this was even during the war, and I guess that a guy could get in big trouble for this. But silk was rationed. A lot of fabrics were rationed. And so they give the map to the girlfriend. And so this slide is showing on the left what is described as a wedding dress. And then the top on the right is a blouse and a skirt. Okay, maps for travel and recreation. Okay. Several types of travel maps have been made. One that was in an early-ish type, early in this century, were made by Rand McNally. They were called fab maps, as we can see here. They were made of microfiber cloth, and they were aimed at tourists and tourism. The maps are small. They're only about 8 by 11, and they particularly highlighted tourist venues, such as the Las Vegas Strip, Waikiki, Hollywood, New York City. They were advertised as serving two purposes, and we could see that up at the top, as a map and as a cleaning cloth for your eyeglasses or your camera lens. The cover also stressed no folding required, waterproof and tearproof. They were printed on both sides, included a legend and a bar scale. They're no longer made, probably because we could pull up a map on our cell phones and we don't need to carry a fab map. So one of them unfolded. Now, the type of fabric maps still produced and still sold are the bandana maps. These have been produced by a number of different companies in both the United States and England. One of the earliest groups was designed by Tom Harrison for most of the national parks. Tom Harrison, one of our members. Okay. Their maps are about 22 by 22. They're printed on cotton. They are a handy size for a neckcloth or a scarf. They fit easily in a pocket. And of course, they're waterproofed and sweat-proof for hikers and bikers. And as an aside, when I take bicycle tours in Death Valley or I ride in Joshua Tree National Park, I carry one of these maps in my bag, my gear bag. Ta-da. I sometimes soak it in water, wrap it around my neck to keep cool. A British company, Splash Maps, makes similar maps, but will custom make maps for an area or for an expedition that you're doing. Another American company, True North Maps, makes maps specifically for canoeing. And in this case, it's the waterproof nature of the map. Uh-oh. Okay, give me another 30 seconds or so. Now, why, we might ask, are these maps for outdoor activities still produced, but the fab maps aren't? I mean, the fab maps got wiped out by cell phones. A major factor is the area in which the maps are used. In the national parks, cell service isn't available in most areas, usually at the visitor center or something of that sort of the ranger station. Nor is Wi-Fi, except maybe at a hotel, and there aren't many hotels in some of the parks. And of course, it's not free. And there have been several deaths reported in people in national parks traveling in the areas depending solely on GPS. And something's not on the GPS, and, or something is shown wrong on it. Therefore, when hiking, biking, canoeing, a real map is needed. And paper maps, of course, are used, but in a canoe, cloth is better. And in a canoe, even if GPS is available, the danger of the phone or the GPS falling into the water is real. So I think that today I have, let's see, okay, I have demonstrated respectfully to Barbara that not all cloth maps are map crap. That they can indeed make the difference between life and death, and I think Barbara would agree. Thank you.